나와 신나고 뻔게 또 신나 샤바와키 신나무 키크라니 짜이 샤바키라니 짜이무 키크라니
Yep. That is Clint's girlfriend, and they love to go swimming. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Rudowski, here of thebestpoliticalshow.com, and we will be going live for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest news happening right now, as, of course, there are so many different crazy things to talk about, as Donald Trump had some very interesting comments about the story of the decade, as now he is also contemplating what happened to him when someone or something tried to take his life. It also looks like Amazon Alexa is playing some dirty tricks, as Elon Musk is actually excited to get into office. What does that mean, as top Democrats are getting arrested for colluding with China? What's going on here, as there's more reports of migrant gangs taking over inner cities all throughout the United States? Well, that's exactly what we are going to be talking about for the next 2 hours. So please share this broadcast with your friends and family members. It is more imperative than ever, and we greatly appreciate it, especially when it comes to fighting the YouTube algorithm. It usually isn't that friendly when it comes to exposing, the story of the decade that we have been talking about for a very long time here. I think longer than a decade we've been talking about this particular story, so we're definitely going to be doing a big deep dive into it. You guys could also participate in the conversation, and one easy, quick way to do that is to sign up to lookunfiltered.com. When you do that, you get access to the Telegram channel, and you get the ability to call in and be a part of the larger conversation that we have in a totally unfiltered way. First-time callers always get priority. That caller could be you, just by clicking the link in the description and then going to the Telegram chat that I am inside of right now. We also will be trying to prioritize reading any and all super chats, but of course, first of all, we will be going to mysuperchat.com on Streamlabs and reading those, since those provide a 3% service charge and not a 30% service charge that, of course, YouTube charges us just for your ability to super chat. Your super chats on Streamlabs also show up on screen, and those are the ones that, of course, we are going to be prioritizing. As just a few moments from now, Darren Beatty will actually be joining us and calling in, as, of course, he is not here, but we will have him for the next segment, and we have a lot of very crazy, salacious insider details to get into, especially when it comes to a lot of the stories that are not that friendly for YouTube. But also joining us for this conversation is Martha Bueno. Martha, for the people who don't know you, who are you, and how would you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Luke. I think I'm your favorite little person. That's how I'm going to introduce myself.
You are my favorite 5'0" Latina, based particularly in Miami.
Thank you.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them here, but you're my favorite out of all of them.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Really? You have a lot of tiny based Latinas? I'm not sure. Oh, I guess you said based in Miami. I'm going to take that as based, whatever. So you can find me on X at Bueno for Miami.
Clint is my favorite Nephilim in all of Miami.
He stole my joke. That's exactly what I was going to say, but it means that it's true. So that makes me feel even better. Clint Russell at Liberty Lock Pod. Liberty Lockdown is the show, and you should subscribe to that, because I put out bangers and I tell the truth, and very few people do.
And then your YouTube channel also linked in the description, so
Yes.
people can go check out your channel as well. So check him out and go subscribe to his channel as well.
And while you're at it, search for podcasts on your phone for RSS feeds and look for The Best Political Show and Liberty Lockdown. Subscribe to both, and don't subscribe to Tower Gang.
Yep.
We got Lauren on the buttons today.
Someone ate Steph. We don't know where she's at. Don't ask any questions. My favorite Jewish lawyer in all of Miami is also here.
Wow. Now there's a lot of those.
There's a lot of those, so that does mean something. There's way more Jewish lawyers than there are Latina midgets. So
No. I think the ratio is.
Little person.
I think the ratio is pretty comparable, to be honest. Here, it is Miami. So, but just speak into the
neck
mic
and
if
neck,
you can.
but you're both his favorite, and that's what matters.
yes, that's all that matters. So thanks for having me here.
All right, we're going to get just right into it, as of course, for me, the biggest story today is obviously the latest comments from Donald Trump after he just did a very fascinating podcast episode with Lex Friedman, as Donald Trump is not just on the campaign trail, he's also on the podcast trail. He's doing a lot of very kind of conversations that aren't really scripted, going into a lot of particular issues, including this one that Mike Cernovich said Reid Hoffman isn't going to want to hear about this one, as well as probably a lot of other very powerful, prominent individuals in Western society that are tied into Mr. Epstein, that had a private island that they did very horrible things to small children on. This is a story that also Donald Trump knows a lot about, since he also knew a Mr. Epstein, and during his presidency, a lot of very interesting happens to that Epstein. But here's the clip in 45 seconds, which I think if you are one of those people that went on that airplane, went to that island, probably isn't making you feel that well today. Here's the clip.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, it endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But, yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
Yeah, that's a big story. That's a major story. That's a story that if you're a part of the intelligence agencies, you're kind of hitting the panic alarm right now, being like, oh, crap. Oh, no. All of the people that are connected to this are extremely powerful, and you could bet your bottom dollar there's a lot at stake here during this election, and I think this is one of the key kind of behind-the-scenes issue that is driving a lot of the larger criticism of Donald Trump. Now, is he perfect on this issue? Absolutely not, but there's a lot of history here that is important to, of course, also unravel. But him saying, yeah, probably we're going to be releasing. Yeah, I'll look into that. Yeah, I have no problem doing that. And you could see his kind of course of thinking kind of change as he's speaking about another kind of larger conspiracy that turned out to be true. And that's the conspiracy of what happened to JFK. As of course, now with the team of RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, and Kash Patel that are promising declassification efforts here that are going to be vast, this is something that's, I think, absolutely incredible, absolutely awesome, and one of the reasons why there's so much hate against Donald Trump.
Let's go. I'm so excited for this. I can't wait. I think that it's going to be amazing that we're going to finally get some disclosure. At least I hope so.
Yeah. I'll take the skeptic side since everybody's being very positive about this. This information was available to Donald Trump for 4 years. He didn't do anything to release it. Same with the JFK files. I do tend to believe that because he's not facing re-election again, assuming he is to win in November, that he will do more on behalf of the people. But let's be honest, he is still his campaign funding is still from Miriam Adelson. She's got direct connection to Israeli politics in a major way. And if you know anything about what we're talking about, there's a lot of reason to believe that he will be told, hey, you're not going to disclose this because there's some of our allies that would be caught up in it. So that's the reason for my skepticism. I hope to be proven wrong. Certainly, Kamala Harris is never going to release this info. So, fingers crossed.
Kamala Harris is there to make sure this info never gets out there to the general public.
Exactly.
And I think this is essentially why there are so many underhanded efforts trying to stop Donald Trump. I think this is the reason why there is such a multifaceted kind of attack here. And if you're Donald Trump right now, especially after someone tried to take your life, especially after there's so many significant questions about what happened there, that Donald Trump is even raising himself. We're going to get to that story and his latest comments as well, which are also very kind of bombastic here. But it does seem like this is a totally different Trump than what we previously had beforehand. Because if you remember, he said, I'm going to release the JFK files. I'm going to release all of them. The CIA came in there and says, no, you're not. He says, I'm still going to do it. They said, no, you're not. He never did. According to Judge Knapp, it was, of course, Mike Pompeo that allegedly behind the scenes was begging him not to release these documents. But now with RFK in there, now with the circumstances which are escalated severely, if I'm Donald Trump, automatically release it right away. But of course, I'm not him.
Yeah, no, I hope you're right, obviously. But again, I'll play the skeptic side because I know some additional information about this. RFK Jr. described Pompeo as one of the most brilliant patriotic men he's ever met, which is very disturbing. I don't know how, given his relationship to the CIA through his family lineage, to perceive Pompeo in that way is bizarre. Not to mention what he attempted to do with Assange when he wanted to have him taken out. It's all very confusing to me. I can't make heads or tails of it. It's going to come down to whether or not it happens.
Yeah.
That's the only way we'll know.
I so want to believe Trump, and then you come in with the facts, and gosh,
And it's like,
I
what
know,
the hell?
You're right, and that's the bottom line. Like, I want Trump to be this guy that's just going to be like, yeah, we're going to do all these things and we're going to release it. But you're right, he had 4 years, he didn't, and so
Prove us wrong.
I know. I want him to come
I want
in.
to be proven wrong.
Exactly. I want him to come in and be like this amazing president who's like, you know what? We're just going to do all these things, and I could care less what happens after the fact. But,
Well, let's examine some of the history here, because it was Don Jr. when he was on Timcast that I specifically asked about this very particular issue. And Don Jr. specifically, I think you were there too, sitting in the stands, watching the show that he was on. He specifically described how there was a big rift between Epstein and Donald Trump, how Donald Trump had to kick him out of Mar-a-Lago. If you look at the larger kind of legal cases that were happening against Epstein with some of his victims, lawyers that represented the victims did come forward and they said, hey, actually, out of all the people we asked for help here, Donald Trump was actually one of the few people that came forward and actually provided us information and was helping us behind the scenes, testifying, giving us any kind of information he could about this particular topic. Now, is he implicated here? That's something that a lot of people are also kind of alluding to. But with the way that this is kind of, unfolding, I'm surprised Lex Friedman kind of asked this question. Also, I'm kind of not, especially with some of the questions regarding his kind of alleged kind of potential participation in other kind of government agencies, also at some of the universities that he works at. But it could have been a kind of larger testing of the water here. And, if I was Donald Trump, I would have given a more kind of definitive answer, since I've been talking about this issue for more than a decade. But also, I think he has to walk a kind of fine line here. And he does speak off the cuff, and this is what's great about him. But a lot of people also kind of explain this as a kind of Achilles heel of his as well.
Josie and I had an hour-long conversation with Donald Trump Jr. before that interview you're talking about, where you asked him about this case. And I'll just say this, because it was off the record, so I won't give any details, but we talked about the Vegas shooting and a bunch of stuff that he probably doesn't talk about normally. I will say this. I genuinely think that if he was the president, I would have a lot of faith. For whatever reason, his father, given the opportunity, did not do so. I think that there was immense pressure put on him. I think that he caved to that pressure. The question is, does he have the backbone? Has he been radicalized the way the American people have been by the treatment that he's received, as the American people have been radicalized by the treatment they've received? I don't know. He certainly doesn't talk in that fashion, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't feel it in his core and that he won't behave accordingly. So I don't know.
he may also, after this threat on his life, he may be downplaying it too. I mean, if that was the case for me, I definitely wouldn't want to go anger those agencies or potential agencies and say things that they wouldn't like.
And this is why I'm such a weirdo. I go the opposite direction. I'm like, oh, I think that the government took a shot at me. I am going to advertise that as loudly as possible. Make it as hard as possible for them to try it again, because I think that's the other problem with him downplaying it, is that now, like, they can just, maybe his airplane goes down or something. Who knows? And then it's harder to prove. Whereas if the American people are all on guard, like, wow, we have the favorite to be the next president of the United States who's saying, yes, they took a shot at me. maybe they won't try it again. So I don't know. It's a really hard wager.
I'm just happy we're talking about this. I'm just happy that Trump is on record right now saying, yeah, I'm going to probably release it. I don't like that probably.
I don't either.
But
Yeah, I don't like that probably.
But I still like that we're talking about this issue. I still like that finally this issue that affected thousands of children. And again, this is a massive thing. We're not talking about a minor thing. We're talking about a government-run, multi-government-run operation where children were literally taken and used for horrible purposes. Again, this is a family-friendly show, so we'll spare you some of the details here. But again, we covered this extensively for many, many years on, where the government and the corporate media were calling us crazy conspiracy theorists for bringing up. You think there's an island that they do this stuff? You're crazy. You're insane. They don't do any of this stuff. And of course, they did in a severe matter.
They still do, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what he says. The fact of the matter is, it's still happening, and the fact of the matter is, it's probable that our government is aware, is a part
Involved.
of this, is involved, is facilitating.
It's not
it.
probable. They did facilitate it, and
Absolutely.
they covered it up. They covered it up
They're
since
still
the 90s.
covering it up.
They had children come to them in the 90s.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, there's this crazy weird guy named Mr. Epstein that's doing this. There's a Maxwell hanging out outside of high schools doing this. Hey, you know, my sister had this done to her. Hey, this is happening here to multiple children.
300,000
And the
plus
FBI's
kids are lost right now.
FBI's like, squirrel. Oh,
Yeah.
Totally ignored it.
300,000 migrant children are lost right now. We don't know where they are. Clearly, this is a problem.
Yeah.
Well, and then
And the human trafficking that's happening through the border right now is one of the biggest important issues that no one is talking about, and they're
Nobody.
all sweeping underneath, the rug. There's also the
Trump
Dying
started.
Corp. I don't know if you guys know about the Dying Corp conspiracy that unfolded with child trafficking as well, specifically highlighting an intelligence agency-linked military contractor that was literally caught red-handed, and Congresswoman Cynthia McKinney exposed this, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people believe that she was kind of taken out of Congress by the Democrats and the Republicans that worked against her to kick her out of political office. If you really want a major wake-up call, because this was happening way before Epstein, it's probably still happening right now, look up Dying Corp and child trafficking and be prepared to be shocked to see the levels of atrocities your government committed with your tax dollars. Sorry.
No, I mean, just to add to that, that demonstrates that this is a bipartisan issue. If you're a Democrat and you try and tell the truth, you're gone. If you're a Republican, you try and tell the truth or advocate in terms of prosecution for the people that are responsible, you're probably gone. And I think that plays a huge role into the undermining of Trump and his presidency. The first go around, the attempt on his life, in my estimation, which was almost certainly perpetrated by some in some aspect or on some level from the government itself, or the people that are in power, even if it's not the government. But I think it's probably the government, to be honest.
And that's why we don't know anything of what's going on. That's why nothing gets released. That's why, Trump saying this is so major. But then we got to see if he actually does it. And that's it. And then even if he does disclose this, what happens next? Because we know Ghislaine Maxwell isn't in jail for trafficking children to no one. She obviously had to have trafficked children to somebody. They know if they have proof that she did this, they know that they trafficked it to at least 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Where are those people?
I would imagine it's hundreds, to be honest.
Absolutely. But where are these people? Where is that evidence? How do you prosecute somebody for a crime, but you don't have who she sold it to?
Yeah, you didn't have any customers?
Right.
Really?
I mean, it's ridiculous.
This is the other kind of way I analyze things to know when something's really off. Where is the intrepid journalist that's hot on the trail of this for any corporate news organization? It doesn't exist. Like, there's a lot of independents, and God bless him. Luke's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
Dawson, a whole bunch of people.
Mike Cernovich is another one that actually fought the legal cases. The Miami Herald, another actual news organization that
Miami
actually
Herald
did something
yes.
here.
But my point being, in recent history, like, why are they not trying to get an interview with Ghislaine to get more details? Like, this is the type of stuff that you would expect a journalist that's actually interested in the truth would be like, well, I'm going to do everything in my power to get justice for these victims. I mean, these are kids, dozens and dozens of children that were victimized in such an egregious fashion. No one's interested in getting justice for these people? It's like, come on.
Yeah, Josie, the redheaded libertarian, just super chatted. DJT released 53,000 out of 170,000 pages of JFK documents. Also, regarding mine and Clint's conversation with Don Jr., he is authentically libertarian.
I would
agree with that
He
kind of
leans
sentiment.
in that direction. Yes.
Ooh.
I think he does. I really do.
But there was a situation where Tim Pool literally got sick, and he like went to puke in the bathroom, and I'm like, I got to take over the show. And I'm like, now we're talking about this, and he was like, and then after
I remember that.
and then after the show, he's like, oh, you talked about all that stuff, didn't you? I'm like, I had to fill in here, Tim.
What'd you talk about, Luke?
We talked about
let us know.
all the juicy stuff surrounding warp speed, surrounding, of course, more specifically Epstein, and a lot of the deeper down the rabbit hole stuff. Fascinating conversation that I think Don Jr. gave some very good answers on, and allowed people to, of course, actually find out and provide some kind of larger context here that we would have never originally got. A lot of people were always kind of questioning the larger story of Epstein being kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. There wasn't any kind of official sources on that. There was kind of speculation. Some people were saying it was totally made up here. But then Don Jr. kind of confirmed it and said, yes, this actually did kind of happen here from my recollection, from his kind of experiences here, which is a major big deal, which is something that, of course, is significant here.
Absolutely. And knowing that Donald's son is somewhat of a libertarian kind of makes me happy, even if it doesn't really mean anything in the larger context.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does mean something, because Trump Sr. really does turn to his family for advice on things. You saw Kushner and his daughter were very much involved in his presidency. So I would like to see Donald Trump Jr. Very much more in the advisory role than the other relatives that he was listening to the first go around.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to see who he puts in there. But if Kushner's in there and Don Jr. isn't, that's a little bit of
we're in
side.
trouble at that point.
Is Don Jr. the libertarian he promised is the question.
Yeah, no.
Well, I don't think he ever promised that, but I think
He
a
did at the
lot of
Libertarian conference. He promised that he would have a libertarian in his cabinet.
Yeah.
So is it his son? I mean,
No, it's not. It'll be an actual libertarian. I'm very confident.
Oh.
Yeah, the plan that they're putting forward is actually a good one, and something that I'm privy to. You're privy to as well. I don't know if we could talk about it or not, but it's a good plan. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great plan, and I think it's something that's long overdue, and something that is absolutely a step in the right direction, and something that's actually it's amazing.
It is.
It's a huge, major step forward. People are like, "What is he talking about?" We're not going to tell you.
Yeah, well,
You should definitely be the anarchist in Trump's cabinet. I know
There
he
you
didn't
go.
promise one, but you definitely should be.
We need an anarchist convention where everyone just doesn't listen to each other. That's like an oxymoron. A convention of
imagine?
anarchists. No one's going to organize it. No one's going to have
We
any
can't
rules.
have,
No one's
like-
going to follow anything. You think the libertarians are bad? Holy cow!
That's what I was going to
The
say.
anarchists.
Herding cats for the anarchists must be wow, because libertarians are tough enough.
It's
No.
impossible
It's
with
hurting.
either.
It's hurting autistic cats with Asperger's.
Nothing wrong with the autist.
Yes. No. I'm not saying there's something wrong with autists.
We
might participate in the
we
club.
all are them. There's nothing wrong with us.
They is us.
Only a lot. By the way, just to further in what Luke was alluding to with kind of this hybrid movement that they're doing, what I find fascinating is that Murray Rothbard was one of the progenitors of the paleo-conservative strategy, where the libertarians were essentially going to infiltrate the GOP and make them more libertarian. What I find fascinating is that what we've witnessed, and people don't really realize it because they don't understand kind of the backroom dealings and conversations that many in the libertarian community have been having, including the chair, Angela McArdle, is that really this is happening in reverse. The GOP, not really GOP, but MAGA, has come to the libertarians saying, hey, let's do the paleo-conservative strategy. And the libertarians are the ones going like, I don't know, maybe, we'll see. But I think it's really fascinating. And it probably will decide, as Luke said yesterday, it will probably decide whether or not Trump is successful. That's assuming that the elections are
I think
Why
this
would
is-
the libertarians not be interested in that?
Oh, because it's like herding autistic cats, like
Yeah.
Clint just said.
With
here's the thing-
Asperger's.
Yeah. The thing is that I think most people don't realize how brilliant Angela was with this whole thing. And, we've had a history. And I'm the first person to come out and say, like, I was wrong. Angela is brilliant. And what she's
very
done with this, like you said, like we've been trying to infiltrate the Republican Party and be like, hey, listen to us. And they are coming to us. We had the former president at our convention promise us a list of things, about 10 things that he was going to do for libertarians if we supported him. And, I'm kind of known for the free raw stuff. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
And in hindsight, how powerful was it to have also RFK Jr. at that
Oh,
convention, because
absolutely.
now he's in Trump's camp.
And Vivek Ramaswamy.
And
And
Vivek.
I mean, it's just all of our like super awesome based politicians are all coming to the Libertarian Party.
And
I
Kamala
think
Harris was baking collard greens in bathtubs, so she
yeah,
couldn't
you
be
know,
there.
she
Sadly.
was invited, or Biden was invited, because at the time Biden was the candidate and he didn't.
The redheaded libertarian said, be less autistic, Clint. And then she also said, I asked Junior about Mar-a-Lago. Junior leans libertarian, as she clarifies.
Yes.
So, yes, I would absolutely agree with that. But
Leans
again,
libertarian, so not quite libertarian, but libertarian enough for our purposes.
he's pretty non-interventionist, but he's still. I'll just say he wasn't as red-pilled on the military-industrial complex as I would like him to be. But he was pretty good. Pretty good.
Listen, over eugenicists, sociopaths, I'll take that over any day.
Me too.
And that's essentially the larger choice here. And again, this is a completely crazy political cycle. And I think the attempted taking of Donald Trump's life does play a big role on this. As Donald Trump recently just spoke to the Daily Mail, where he kind of reflected on all of this and revealed how even some of his friends are worried about him having PTSD from this entire matter, because you would. Here's the clip that I think is worth listening to.
I got hit here very hard. You saw immediate blood. I mean, the blood was all over my hand instantaneously. And fortunately, I went down, and I heard bullets going right over my head. So that was another thing. I had to get down fast. Mm-hmm. I don't call that as much of a miracle as the turn, because the turn was nobody there. Why am I turning? And if I didn't turn, you get hit. And to think that bad shooters would do it almost 100% of the time. I mean, it was just at a very close range. My son said, who's a great shooter, he said, it's the equivalent of sinking a 1-foot putt. So,
You said
pretty amazing. But I have not had any, I must tell you, I don't think about it a lot. I don't want to think about it a lot, but it's had no impact. It healed up, and I wore some pretty heavy bandages for a while, and they got lighter and lighter. It's healed up pretty well, but I don't give it. I don't want to think about it, but I've had no impact. It's had no impact on me from that standpoint.
Very interesting comments, especially with him saying he doesn't really want to particularly think about it, because it is a very traumatic event. But a lot of people are asking him about it, asking him about his own personal take, because the ramifications here are vast. And I think maybe Donald Trump doesn't even want to kind of realize the larger kind of significance of everything that happened here. Because if you really do think about it, it's like, holy cow, there was kind of a larger, quote, inside job that was potentially carried out against me. And this is what the Huffington Post is writing today, as of course Donald Trump is doing a lot of interviews, unlike Kamala Harris. He's actually allowing people to understand who he is as a human being, which is, I think, absolutely critically important. As of course now the Huffington Post is attacking him because they're accusing him of stoking inside job conspiracy theories about the attempted assassination of his life. There's another audio clip of him talking about this, specifically on the Monica Crowley show. It's a bit of a longer clip, so we could interrupt it. But I think there was some major kind of revelations here that do play into the larger skepticism that Donald Trump is awakening to, and the larger questions that he's having about everything that has unfolded against him. Here's the clip.
It looks like the three-letter agencies are slow walking a lot of this evidence, a lot of the videos, etc. Does it look increasingly to you like this was a suspicious, maybe even inside job?
Well, it's strange. The father hired the most expensive lawyer. You know, he lives in the area, supposedly not very much money. He hired the most expensive lawyer. Think of this. Who's paying for this lawyer? In Pennsylvania, high-end, very, very expensive lawyer, top of the line, right? You know, where does he get the money to hire a lawyer that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars? Is the lawyer doing it for free? I doubt it. Are the Democrats paying for his legal fees? Is Mark Elias involved and that group? Is Weissman involved? I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But who's paying for this lawyer? Then you have the case of all of these apps that they can't get open. They can't get his phones open. And, you know, it's very suspicious, very suspicious. why can't they get the apps open? Why can't the FBI get the apps open? Don't forget, the head of the FBI said, I may have been hit by shrapnel or some flying glass. Okay. And that was even disputed by, all you have to do is take a look at it. They've shown it 50 different ways, 200 different ways. But that was their first, he may have been hit by some shrapnel, to maybe just grazed by a little shrapnel. And they knew that wasn't true. So you say, why did they say that? Why did the director say that? Because that was so far off that he met with a tremendous, even his own side said, you can't say that. There was no glass. I guess he said maybe the teleprompter. It's not even glass. It's something else. But it wasn't broken. But, you say, why did he say that? There's so many things going on here that you do have to wonder. You do have to wonder. But they have.
For us, you don't have to wonder. I think we knew right away. Total inside job from the beginning to start. But you could see the kind of unraveling. You could see that he maybe hasn't even processed a lot of this himself. But now he's saying, hey, they have the best lawyer now. Hey, they can't get information from a cell phone when they track, trace, and database everything. You're telling me Apple doesn't have a back door here, which we know that they do. You're telling me that the intelligence agencies aren't able to access all the encrypted information. Yeah, right. As of course, they start up honeypots with a lot of these kind of signals, with a lot of these kind of applications and programs. Everything here stinks to high heaven, and I think this is the kind of moment where kind of Trump is realizing, yeah, this was all a major con against me.
Particularly given all the lawfare that's been waged against him, the fact that they lied to the FISA court, they spied on him with the FBI, they spied on his campaign through Carter Page, then they impeached him on nonsense as he was trying to figure out the truth of the Biden's family dealings in Ukraine. He's been steamrolled by the intelligence community for 7 years plus now. So the logical progression of escalation of force would lead you to believe we can't stop this guy. Well, now we have to stop this guy. And then they take an attempt on stopping this guy. It's like, it's just logical. It's actually illogical to feel otherwise. Now, that's not to say that like it is 100% open and shut case, but Luke's details about how we don't have real details into what this, like the kid's motive, what was actually on those phones, the resources by which he came about them, the resources by which his parents are now luring up with these top level attorneys, as Donald Trump detailed. There's a lot of smoke here. I just don't know what the fire actually is at this junction. I think that's the only question.
Yeah, it's interesting because I do when I talk to my Democrat friends about this, what they say is that it was an inside job, but from the conservative side. And the reason that they say that is, well, they go, oh, well, look at who he was. He was registered Republican, but not only was he registered Republican, because Trump got shot in the ear, that helped his numbers, and this entire debacle has actually helped Trump in the polls. So this is clearly done from a conservative side, but that's what makes it really interesting about the analogy of, okay, this is equivalent to missing a 1-foot putt. Is he that skilled of a shooter that he could have purposely aimed for just the tip of the ear?
Of course,
of course not, especially since the thing that saved him was that he turned his head in the last second. There was, and I think his PTSD, I hope he doesn't have it. I hope Trump doesn't suffer from it, but I think
he should. Anyone would.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think he'll probably process this after the election is over. I think he's just in constant high, moving forward all the time, and so he hasn't had time to necessarily process it.
He's just in these massive crowds day after day.
Right.
Like, you can't have PTSD and be doing what he's doing, in my opinion. As someone who's had trauma and stress disorder from it.
Kind of process it at some point, and I think he won't until the election is over. I think he's just going full steam ahead.
But I think he's processing it through the interview that we're listening to. There's still more to this interview. We're gonna play the rest in a little bit. But I think what you're seeing, what you're hearing right now is Trump kind of realize, this doesn't kind of add up here. As of course, in the beginning days, he was complimenting the Secret Service. As of course, the Secret Service failed here miserably.
Not according to Alejandro Mayorkas and Joe Biden, who have full confidence in Kim Cheadle. That's what they said the day after.
You know what's scary though is that Trump doesn't seem to understand things. Like, I'm still not satisfied with his response on COVID. I'm still not like he takes his time to figure things out, and that's kind of worrisome to me. How do you get to this point and not immediately think, hey, something is wrong? That shooter was up there for 40 minutes before Trump even came out on stage. So how did they allow Trump to even walk onto that stage knowing that there was some kind of credible threat?
He was not on the rooftop for 40 minutes, but he was in the vicinity for hours, actually.
Right.
But he was up there for minutes prior to those shots ringing out.
So how does Trump not immediately think, that's odd? So I'm a little concerned. I think Trump is a very smart guy, but he's a little slow in processing some stuff.
You know what it tells me? And I could be wrong about this. This is just my assessment based off of knowing people. If you are this kind of off base on what is kind of obviously a threat to your life, it probably means that you are surrounded by people who are kind of fearful of you, that they're not telling you the truth, or you're surrounded by idiots. Either option, not
both
good.
Concerning, both very concerning.
I don't think his son is either.
No, I
think his son is very smart and is on it.
Right.
So, sorry, Lauren.
But this is what makes me concerned, that maybe his Trump Jr. fears he respects his father so much he's hesitant to tell him what he thinks about things. I just hope that's not the case, because that's what it sounds like, that he's still it's been almost 2 months now. You're still piecing this together. You ought to have a real opinion, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, he's surrounded by liars. You look at the 3 people that were in charge of the military underneath him, and all 3 of them lied to him about the effects of Afghanistan and what was going on. And then they were trying to draw out, and he expected more troops out, and they left a bunch of troops in and didn't tell him, despite him being the commander in chief. And so I don't know if it's people that are scared of him, or people because they respect him so much and they don't want to step on his toes, or idiots. I think it's just blatant liars who are actively working against him. We already know.
Speaking to the mic.
We already know that the CIA is pretty liberal. We already know that the everybody protecting the president right now is pretty lenient on the left right now. And so why would they be honest with Trump about issues pertaining to his safety?
Well, I mean, the reason I think that I have to believe he's surrounding himself with different people than the first go around. So that's the reason that this gives me so much concern, is maybe he's not, or maybe the people that are around him that are trustworthy, like his son, or it's tough. I know this as a son of a very impressive father, that it's hard to tell your dad, who's been very successful, hey, you're doing this wrong. I've gotten to that point of the relationship with my dad where I feel
listen.
Totally confident in telling. Yeah, he may not listen still, but
Trump may not listen
I feel
to his son.
very confident in speaking my mind now. But I'm just curious, with Trump Jr., his dad being the president of the United States and this billionaire figure, maybe he has a hard time just being like, hey, Dad, let me shoot you straight on this.
Also, I mean, his own son has to have some level of trauma. That's his father that
It'd be
almost
scary
got,
as hell, man.
Yeah, but do the kids even agree with one another? I know Ivanka definitely didn't agree with the sons on several issues pertaining to.
Do siblings ever agree on everything?
So if Trump is getting some information from Ivanka or from Trump Jr. that is, disagreeing, then who is he supposed to rely on? I think that he has a lot of different ideas.
Different voices.
There's more to the clip here. Let's play the remaining part of the clip.
Have apps, or they have some things, and they're foreign based from what I understand. And you say, why is it that they can't get them open? Apple should open them easily. When they were going after you and all your friends, they were able to open up their phones very easily, right? But for an assassin, they can't get their phones open. I think those phones ought to be opened by this afternoon, because they're foreign based. And I think they ought to find out who's paying for the lawyer, where's the money coming from, because I wasn't thinking this way 3 weeks ago, but the more you see it, the more you start to say there could be something else, and that's really dangerous for the country. So, I think they should clear up all doubt. This shouldn't be like the Kennedy, where they're waiting for so many years. I'll be opening that up on my first week, but everybody waits for it. The Kennedy assassination. This shouldn't be that. They should have all the facts. And, it's harder to get the facts as time goes by. But they ought to get those phones open and they ought to find out who he's been speaking to.
See,
that's what I think.
This is the type of like that statement right there just strikes me as like, I don't know if it's naivety or if he's downplaying it, but they ought to get these phones open. Don, they have.
You got to do it. You got to get people in there to do it for you. You can't trust these people.
Or
That's why
they
he needs to
already
be notified.
have gotten it open.
That's the point. They of course they have the data from this phone. Even if they haven't been able to crack it, like they've cracked it. They found a way at this point, no doubt in my mind. If they want to, if they haven't, then they don't want to.
Or they've already been, even before the shot happened,
Well,
they were already monitoring the phone.
That's my belief. It's not monitoring. They were the ones that were communicating on the other end of the phone. That's my belief. But it's just amazing to me that Trump would approach it in that fashion. The fact that he's not demanding answers, the fact that he's not using his foot soldiers in the Congress to do so, like he's got all of these people's political careers hang in the balance based off of his endorsement or his demeaning tweets that he can shoot at them. Well, use that power to force their hand to get answers. This is a really big deal. Like your life is on the line, and the nation is kind of on the line for the next 90 days.
Well, individuals like Matt Gaetz are fighting for him. There are members of Congress that are launching their own investigation, separate investigations. Right. There are hearings that are being held right now, and the number one thing that they're reporting is that they're being stonewalled. That the authorities here are slow walking a lot of the information, or redacting it, or not providing it at all. Which to me highlights a larger kind of criminal elements within our government, and that's what it shows us. There's still more to this clip, so let's finish playing it.
Well, 60 years later, we're still talking about the Kennedy assassination, right? But you were shot 5 or 6 weeks ago, and the imperial media, the regime, they've all buried it. They don't want anybody talking about it, which also lends credence to this idea that this is very suspicious and could have been an inside job. Before
they don't want to talk about it.
No, of course not. Of course not. Which also raises big.
Well, they didn't want to
suspicions.
talk about the election of 2020 either.
Right.
They just don't want to talk about it because they know they're guilty as hell, and the only way you can stop it. It's amazing. People that want to have a fair election are indicted. The people that cheated on the election.
That's true. And then, of course, they go on a separate topic here. But, if we were talking to Trump right now, I would have been like, let's connect all the dots here. Let's go back a little bit here. Let's talk about all the inconsistencies. Let's talk about these failures. Let's talk about the writing on the wall. Let's talk about the escalations here. Let's really kind of revamp and re-examine all of this as it's going on. And I think that's more imperative than ever. And with the way that he's kind of talking about it, he could legitimately not be putting everything together. He could legitimately be dealing with PTSD to the point where he doesn't want to think about it, like he described previously beforehand. He doesn't want to look into it. He wants to ignore it. He's super busy. He's running nonstop. But trauma works in very strange ways on different people, especially when you're this close to losing your life. So what's happening in his head, what's happening with his kind of nervous system, with his emotions, you could only imagine how amped up he is. You could only imagine how much anxiety he's going through and how much stress he's going through right now that would break any man.
Yeah.
I guess he should get into office so that he can have the best of the best helpers with his PTSD after the fact.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know if
I think he also understands specifically that more importantly, he's not in office right now. With him not being in office, he doesn't have the means. He doesn't have the ways. He doesn't have all the things at his disposal to actually get the answers. He understands that they have the answers, and they're doing everything in their power to prevent us from being able to get it. And he could raise a stink right now, but it won't really matter until he actually gets into office, until RFK Jr.'s in there, until Kash Patel's in there, and they're the ones going in and saying, okay, now we're going to examine this. Now we're going to open the can of worms. Now we're going to see exactly what happened to my father, my uncle, to the current, or hopefully current, former president of the United States, Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the risk in taking that pathway is that you still got 60 days before the election, homeboy, and like, if you're not if you're not increasing the stakes by which they can take another attempt on you, I think it's a mistake. But I do understand the opposite direction. You pretend like, oh, the story's legit and it was just this lone gunman and blah, blah, blah. And therefore, maybe they feel as if the pressure is not on them so that if you win again, they won't be immediately put on trial.
Or maybe he already knows. Like, maybe he already knows the situation publicly publicly he's saying, oh man, I have PTSD. I don't want to look into it. I don't want to know who did it. And he just, as somewhat of a safety measure for him to have that inside knowledge and pretend like he doesn't.
Mm-hmm. We're going to go to callers a little bit early because we have Darren Beatty who's going to be calling in just a few minutes from now. So before he calls in, we actually have Chris Baker on the line calling in right now. Chris, thank you so much for being a member. Thank you so much for calling in. What is your question? You are live on air with everybody.
Hey, Luke, did you see the thing with Tim Walz' brother? That looks fairly interesting. It's certainly interesting also the way these families are speaking out against their family members.
What happened? Because I'm not familiar with what happened with Tim Walz.
Laura Loomer got something from Tim Walz' brother, and basically Tim said, his brother said, I can tell you stories. He's definitely not somebody you want to have in a leadership position. That was something she found on social media. So
he said that they hadn't spoken in 8 years.
Yeah, but he said he didn't want to necessarily go public with it. I would love to be with the Kennedys at Thanksgiving this year. I bet that's going to be fun. But
absolutely. What do you think? You saw this story, Martha. What do you think about it?
I mean, it's the same thing with the Kennedys. I think some families just put politics above everything else, and it's kind of gross. I mean, I'm glad that his family is speaking out if they don't think he's a worthy candidate. But I mean, come on, guys, this is politics. Why are we putting our family it's just weird. It's weird ultimately.
Yeah, it seems to divide people. We had this during the Civil War. Hey, Martha, have you heard what some Mexicans call Harris? They call her Kamala.
Yeah, I have. I love that. I think it's very fitting because, well, for those that don't speak Spanish, que mala means how awful. And so it is very fitting. I agree with them. I think she is que mala. Very awful.
Yeah, that was very funny. Yeah. Well, I don't know. This should be a very interesting election. I won't be surprised if something other bombshells come out in the news. We've already gotten a few interesting things happen.
What's your prediction for the election, Chris?
I honestly don't know. I think Trump will win, but I've forecasted so many other things incorrectly. I don't really want to make a commitment.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I am going to listen to him on Lex Friedman, though. Lex has Lex is in Austin, too. Lex is I like Lex. I think he's sincerely interested in the people he talks to. I may not agree with him, but
I recommend it.
Yeah.
Did you watch it, Martha?
I watched the first 45 minutes on my way here today.
What did you think of it?
Thought it was a really good interview. I think, Lex, this is probably going to be Lex Friedman's most popular show by far. And, I think Lex needs a little bit of salt on those interviews, a little more passion. And this is definitely one. I mean, Trump brings the passion. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if YouTube's going to keep it up or if they're going to take it down. Because they previously took down a lot of interviews with him. They took down the Nelk Boys interview. They take down other interviews. They haven't been as active as they have previously beforehand, but who knows. Chris, thank you so much for being a member. Thank you so much for calling in. Anything else you want to say before getting out of here?
Luke, Rumble needs to figure out some way to get these Rumble links to open up in the app on the phone. It does not work. I mean, it works with YouTube, but it doesn't work with Rumble. In fact, I can't even search the Rumble. I can't even search the URLs. Rumble says, I can't find it in the app. So Rumble needs to work on a few things if they're going to compete with YouTube.
We'll definitely let Chris know. And then if you're on the app, just type in We Are Change. And I think that's the best way to kind of find everything. And when you do, you'll be able to kind of find us when we're live. Chris, thank you so much for becoming a member. Thank you so much for calling in. Really appreciate that. As of course, in just a few minutes from now, in 12 minutes, we are going to, of course, be going to Darren Beatty, who, of course, will be calling in just a few minutes from now as I have to fix my camera here. Just give me one particular
In the
second
meantime,
here.
I want to just defend Chris and Rumble because, honestly, they are doing a banging job of keeping free speech alive and well. And so, you know what? If the app isn't necessarily working 100%, let's cut them some slack.
Yeah. Nothing's perfect, especially when you're battling a lot of legal battles, a lot of extensive fights with multiple governments that are trying to take down your entire platform. As, of course, you're getting sued left and right. You're having to flee Europe. There's a lot of things at stake here. But, of course, we will be going to that platform also in about 11 minutes from now. And this is where we are kind of putting all the marbles in. This is what we're investing in, because this is the platform that is allowing us to say whatever we want in a totally unfiltered way. You could watch this particular podcast there right now as we are live next to Don Jr. himself, Jimmy Dore. We are on the front page, and the conversation, of course, goes fully there in just a few minutes from now, and it leaves this larger kind of censorious platform that isn't the best when it comes to, of course, speech. And they police it very heavily. They police it very significantly. As, of course, we have some mysuperchats.com that I wanted to go over. We have Not a Joke saying, what are your thoughts on Trump owning Epstein's old plane? I haven't heard that, but I heard rumors of that as well, but I haven't verified that
I mean, what does that
myself.
even mean? Like, okay, Trump bought an airplane that was for sale. Like, you don't, when you buy a plane, it's not like somebody comes up to you and is like, hey, by the way, you know, Epstein's plane is available. Do you want it? And that's the reason he bought it. I'm sure he got a great deal on it. And I think Trump is essentially a business person who's like, oh, a jet for cheap.
Just some bad juju in there, and a lot of stain removal. If you know what I mean.
Sage it and are you kidding me? Do you really think that Trump didn't redo that interior altogether?
Probably.
I mean, come on. Like, honestly.
I've never even heard this, so I don't even know if
I had
it's
heard
true.
it, yeah. But going back to your previous thing, you know what, guys? Vote with your dollars, vote with your feet. Definitely go over to that other platform and, you know, watch things there, because we have to do this job. If we wait until things go bad, we're not going to have anywhere to go. So please,
and keep in mind,
support.
too, you know, Chris and company are currently litigating in Europe, they're litigating in Brazil, they're litigating in America against Media Matters and these other companies that tried to basically black out sponsorship and advertising opportunities for both X as well as Rumble. Like, they are going to battle. So I agree with you. Yes, there's a ton of improvements that need to be made to the platform. However, they are doing a heck of a lot to fight on our behalf. So I am tremendously appreciative.
I am too. And whenever I watch, especially this show, I watch it on that app. So just saying, everybody, you know, you got to do the job. You got to go like and subscribe over there. You got to go do the things, because one day you might not be able to. So
yeah,
support.
you got to participate in independent media, because if you don't, we're all going to go away. If you're tuning in to Netflix instead of alternative independent media, if you're giving your money to these big corporations instead of purchasing products and services from, of course, alternative media, you are financing the beast. You are financing the people who hate you. And whether it's the products that we kind of provide to you, whether it's the supplements, whether it's the shirts, whether it's the lawn signs that probably will have your liberal neighbor freaking out that you could get right now on wearechange.shop, whatever it is, just participating in this larger kind of economy, I think, is more important than ever.
Absolutely.
We got another mysuperchat.com from John Black saying DJT will definitely get unalived if he releases the Epstein list. It's interesting, when asked, the first thing he said was, I wasn't there. Interesting comments. And when you look at the larger stakes here, if you are one of these very powerful, prominent, you know, billionaires or powerful individuals that went to a private island and did unspeakable things to children, you're going to do everything in your power to prevent that from getting out there to the general public. So
that's the problem.
That's why he had to say that. That's why he had to be like, by the way, I wasn't there. Believe me, I'm going to release this because I wasn't there. Well, if he was there, we're probably never going to hear about any of this.
No, if it does get released, do you think it'll be altered, or do you think it will be complete?
I mean, when has the government? Yeah, when has the government ever been transparent? If there's never been a time where they've told us the complete truth and nothing but the truth. Why would that change now?
I mean, it's not just the powerful political class in America. This is enough to bring down multiple governments, royal families, major corporations. It's a huge deal, and this is the reason that I have so little faith that we will ever see justice on it. Just simply because you're going to have to risk everything to get the truth out. Now, I hope that he will, because I think that'll be indicative of him taking the fight to these people in a way that is truly profound and totally needed. So we'll see.
It's so crazy that these are the stakes here.
Yeah, man.
Like this is heavy, man. This is some deep stuff.
Yep.
This is why
it's about as heavy as it gets. Man.
Yeah, this is why I keep, we have CBD. We're like, hey, take calm.com and go get some CBD. Go meditate. Go relax, because this is just the beginning of a crazy political cycle, and people expect, everything's going to be back to normal after November 5th. No, the hell it won't. It's only beginning. The ride is just starting, and it's ratcheting up, and there's going to be a lot of up and downs.
By the way, I think if the Democrats win in November, I think they will go really aggressively to basically cement their power. I think packing the Supreme Court, all of these things that some people feel like it's fear mongering. Like, they're talking about it openly. Like, I think they genuinely intend to make it so that they have a full court press, domination, control of not just the media, but the academia, political establishment, the justice system, everything. So the stakes have never been higher. I know people always go, "Oh, yeah, this is the most important of our election in a lifetime." Haven't heard that one before. Yeah, well, this is different. Yeah, it is different.
Yeah, they're openly talking about suppressing free speech. They're openly saying, no, you can't have the right to say what you want because people's feelings and emotions get hurt. Yeah. And this
Kamala Harris said Donald Trump lost his privilege to speak. The sitting president of the United States, that was her opinion. 4 years ago or whatever it was when he got kicked off of Twitter at the time. That's crazy that we have someone like that running for the presidency.
Yeah, absolutely insane.
Marxists will be Marxists. Yeah. You can vote your way into socialism, but there's only one way out, and I think
there's no going out usually.
Yeah, there's no going out. I mean, Cuba's been at this for 64 years, and they still haven't found a way out. Venezuela tried 20 years ago. They're still trying to get their way out. They just voted, and the other guy won, but now he's being politically persecuted. So there's no way out of this. The whole thing is don't vote your way into this. So if you're going to choose based on she's a woman and we need a woman, please, spare me. You do not want this woman, this Marxist woman in power. Please stay home rather than vote for this person.
Do you think there's a single Kamala Harris supporter that watches us? I would love to talk to them.
They should definitely call in. We will make an exception for this person.
For
Please
sure.
call in if you are a Kamala supporter.
If you're a Kamala Harris supporter, DM me at Liberty Lock Pod on X. I will get you on the show because I would love to talk to you. Because
there is one that we're working on getting on this show.
Okay.
And the Krasenstein said that they would be on the show. They had to cancel. We're working on rebooking them. So we are trying to host these conversations with the Krasensteins. You got to promise
the Krasenstein 17-year-olds. Maybe they'll come.
Pixie would definitely come on the show. Pixie is a huge Kamala. Yeah. She's been on the show before. She's very open to discussing with conservatives.
Oh, I want to be here for that. I so want to know how, I don't get it. And is it that they just... Is it that somebody doesn't know that, her policies and what's been tried before? Oh, by the way, Donald Trump mentions Kamala's policies on the Lex Friedman show, and he says that something to the effect of price controls have been tried 120 different ways, and they've always led to inflation. They've always led to food shortages. They've always led to democratic socialism or hunger, famine. So I think that there's, a lot of people talking about this. It's true. It's been tried. It's not the recipe. It's not the chef. It's the recipe. The recipe's broken. It just doesn't work.
By the way, the Krasensteins posted that clip, and they said, "Thank you to Lex Friedman for disabusing people of this lie that Kamala Harris is a communist." If you actually listen to the clip, though, what Lex says is that I don't think that she, any of the things she's talking about will actually be enacted. So he's not saying that she's not a communist. He's just saying, I think that these are campaign promises that will never actually be
instituted. It'll never actually pass. Of course, price controls aren't going to happen in the United States. Obviously, he's not saying, no, she's not a communist. He's just saying she won't be able to do it because exactly. She has no power.
But I think it's really important for people to understand, her rhetoric actually is communist.
100%.
It's Marxist, communist, whatever variant you want to describe it as. So the fact that the Krasensteins would pounce on that to try and win points for themselves.
Feel free to do some research and look up Venezuela price controls. It has happened many, many a times. This is a very recent one, you can see it led to food shortages.
She wants to ban guns and
we're going to continue that conversation specifically because that's an unfriendly conversation here on YouTube, especially the G word. But we'll have a full-on conversation. We're going to be calling Darren Beatty right now, and that conversation goes over over to, of course, the free speech platform that is in front of your screen right now. Go there, as of course the conversation gets very interesting, very
we're
spicy.
head to head with Donald Trump Jr.
Yep, we definitely are. And be a part of that conversation. Go over to the free speech platform. Join us there as we're going to continue to read all your super chats and get into a lot of other issues. As of course, in Germany, people are literally being arrested for calling fat people fat. As of course, I would automatically be put in jail gladly. We'll
Life
talk
in
about that
prison for
issue,
Luke.
plus a lot more. Martha, where can people find out more information about you?
On X, Bueno for Miami.
At Liberty Lockpod on X, Liberty Lockdown is the show. Make sure you subscribe to that on YouTube and everywhere else, as well as Tower Gang. Don't watch that. And Best Political Show. Search it, subscribe, never miss an episode. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Lauren.
Lauren De Laguna. That's DELAGUNA. You can find me on X, Instagram, and YouTube.
All right, go over there right now. Thank you for everyone that signed up to lookunfiltered.com. Really does mean a lot that you guys sign up and are a part of this independent media organization. As you can see, it's usually the same people calling in. We don't have that many members. You could be that member. It means a lot to us, lookunfiltered.com. Conversation transfers over to the Free Speech Network, and we're going to start off with a doozy.
Hell yeah.
A big doozy. Two big doozies.
Another one of my wives.
Two wives, actually.
Ooh, now they've upgraded from girlfriend.